In 1997, Dennis Rodman grabbed 11 rebounds against the Portland Trail Blazers after partying until 5 a.m. at Chicago's Crowbar nightclub. 2 nights later, running on Red Bull and pure willpower, he pulled down 17 rebounds against the Lakers. By the end of that week, he'd hit 3 different clubs, missed 1 practice, and still averaged 15.8 rebounds per game. Let's break down exactly how Dennis Rodman managed to become one of the greatest rebounders in NBA history, while maintaining a lifestyle that would have destroyed any other professional athlete. Let's talk raw numbers, because Rodman's stats are absolutely mind-blowing. He dominated the boards for an insane 7 straight years, snatching up the rebounding title every single season from 1992 to 1998. Throughout his career, he grabbed a ridiculous 11,954 rebounds in just 911 games, averaging 13.1 rebounds per game. And get this, almost half of those, 48.7%, were offensive rebounds, meaning he was giving his team second chances to score constantly. Add to that 5 NBA championship rings and 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and it gets even crazier when you realize he did all this while barely shooting the ball, averaging just 4.9 shots per game. This guy wasn't interested in scoring. He was purely focused on doing the dirty work that nobody else wanted to do, and he did it better than anyone in NBA history. Now let's dive into exactly how this happened, starting with the Bulls' desperate need for a defender in 1995. The Bulls had just lost to Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic in the '95 playoffs. Their problem was simple. They couldn't stop dominant big men. Despite Michael Jordan's return from baseball, the Bulls were vulnerable inside. They needed someone who could neutralize players like Shaq, Patrick Ewing, and David Robinson. Enter Dennis Rodman, the NBA's wildest personality that had the San Antonio Spurs literally begging other teams to take him off their hands. Why were they so desperate? During his time with the Spurs, Rodman turned their organization into a complete circus. He showed up late to 27 practices, often rolling in straight from nightclubs, and missed 19 team flights like they were optional. The team suspended him 3 times for various antics, while he kept showing up with his hair dyed a different shocking color every week, from neon green to hot pink. To top it all off, his high-profile relationship with Madonna turned every game into a paparazzi frenzy, with entertainment reporters swarming their usually quiet arena. But here's the crazy part. Despite all this chaos, Rodman was absolutely dominating on the court, pulling down an insane 17.1 rebounds per game. That's when Phil Jackson, the Bulls' legendary coach, saw an opportunity everyone else missed. Instead of trying to control Rodman like every other team had, Jackson offered him something no one else would: complete freedom to be himself, as long as he kept grabbing those rebounds. It was a gamble that would change NBA history. The actual conversation went like this: Jackson, we need someone who can get every rebound. Rodman, I can do that. Jackson, can you do it your way? Rodman, what do you mean? Jackson, just be yourself. Get rebounds. That's all we need. This was revolutionary. While other coaches tried to control Rodman, Jackson gave him 3 simple rules. 1, show up for games. 2, give 100% on the court. 3, don't disrupt team chemistry. Everything else, fair game. During the Bulls' historic 72-10 season in 1995 to 96, Rodman's weekly schedule was absolutely mind-blowing. Picture this. He'd start his week dominating the Knicks, grabbing 18 rebounds like it was nothing, then immediately hit Chicago's hottest clubs until 4 a.m. The next day, he'd stroll into practice 30 minutes late, probably still wearing last night's clothes, then hop on a plane to Vegas just because he felt like it. By Wednesday, he'd completely skip practice, living it up in Vegas, only to return Thursday morning just in time for the game against the Pacers. And what did he do after missing an entire practice? Casually pulled down 21 rebounds, then celebrated at local clubs until 5 a.m. Friday was one of his responsible days. Actually showed up to practice on time, but made up for it by throwing a massive house party that night. Saturday was peak Rodman. Destroyed the Hawks with 19 rebounds, then went on a legendary club crawl, hitting 3 different spots in one night. Sunday, while other players were resting or doing light practice, Rodman was either recovering at yet another party or starting the next week's party early. The most insane part? He played some of his best basketball during this period, proving that somehow this crazy schedule actually worked for him. When we dig into Rodman's actual game performance, the numbers tell an unbelievable story. Take his matchup against Patrick Ewing and the Knicks, for instance. Despite being awake for nearly 20 straight hours after a legendary night at Chicago's hottest clubs, Rodman dominated the game. He not only grabbed 18 rebounds but completely disrupted Ewing's offensive rhythm, holding him to just 41% shooting. Even more impressive? He played 42 high-intensity minutes, showing no signs of fatigue from his all-night escapades. But that wasn't even his most impressive feat. In what became one of his signature performances, Rodman faced off against Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic right after another all-night party. Nobody gave him a chance against the most dominant big man in the league. Yet Rodman pulled down 21 rebounds, forced Shaq into an unprecedented 7 turnovers, and stayed on the court for a grueling 44 minutes. The most remarkable part? He came straight from the club to the arena, changing into his uniform while his teammates were already warming up. What made these performances possible wasn't just raw talent. It was Rodman's obsessive approach to studying the game. His training methods were unlike anything the NBA had ever seen. Instead of practicing his own shots or studying opponent tendencies, Rodman spent countless hours analyzing his teammates' shooting patterns. He'd sit for hours in empty gyms, watching film of their misses, calculating the exact trajectories of their shots, and memorizing the specific way each player's ball would spin off the rim. This wasn't just practice. It was basketball science. His rebounding technique was equally revolutionary. While other players relied on pure athleticism, Rodman approached rebounding like a physicist. He perfected the art of using his hips to box out players who often had 50 to 60 pounds on him. His understanding of angles and momentum was so advanced that he could consistently beat taller players to rebounds by anticipating the ball's trajectory before it even hit the rim. Perhaps most impressively, he mastered the art of boxing out without fouling, often jumping second but still securing the rebound through superior positioning. By 1996, Rodman's party lifestyle had become as legendary as his on-court performance. He took it to another level by purchasing a $60,000 custom party bus that became infamous throughout Chicago. This wasn't just any vehicle. It was a nightclub on wheels, complete with a professional-grade sound system worth $15,000, a full-service bar, a custom dance floor, elaborate lighting systems, a private sleeping area, and a dedicated security team. The bus became his mobile sanctuary, allowing him to party on his own terms while avoiding the chaos of public clubs. Yet even with this rolling nightclub at his disposal, his numbers remained staggering. During this period, he averaged 16.1 rebounds per game, an almost impossible feat considering his lifestyle. His clutch performance was equally impressive, shooting 91% from the free throw line in crucial moments. He led the league in offensive rebounds and managed to stay on the court for an average of 39.4 minutes per game. Starter minutes despite his nocturnal adventures. The 1997 finals against the Utah Jazz perfectly exemplified Rodman's unique ability to balance partying and performance. After spending the entire night before Game 6 celebrating at various Chicago hotspots, he showed up to the arena and put on a clinic. In one of the most pressure-packed games of the season, Rodman grabbed 17 rebounds, including 9 crucial offensive boards that gave the Bulls extra possessions. He played 41 intense minutes and made several key defensive stops against Karl Malone, one of the most powerful players in the league. Then there was the infamous Vegas incident during the 1998 season, which has become NBA legend. What started as a 48-hour break turned into a 96-hour party marathon. Reports suggest he spent around $42,000 during his stay, hitting every major club on the Strip. The most incredible part? When he finally returned to the team, he immediately grabbed 20 rebounds in his first game back, showing absolutely no rust from his extended Vegas vacation. Rodman's practice habits were just as unconventional as everything else about him. While other players would arrive early to get up extra shots, Rodman typically showed up late and was usually the first to leave. But when he was there, his focus was laser sharp. He spent minimal time on shooting practice, instead dedicating himself entirely to studying positioning and timing. He'd watch his teammates shoot for hours, building a mental database of their tendencies that he could use during games. The numbers don't lie when comparing his party years to his brief attempt at clean living. During his peak party period from 1995 to 1998, He averaged 15.3 rebounds and 39.1 minutes per game, while collecting only 5 technical fouls per season and winning 3 championships. And that's Dennis Rodman for you. An absolute beast on and off the court. If you loved this, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned to Beastly Athletes for more epic stories. See you next time